Hello, everyone, and welcome into this week's episode of Broncos Brawl podcast. Hope everyone has had a phenomenal first week of May. My name is Keegan Hartman. You can find me and follow me on Twitter at KeeganHartman1. Joining me today, he is a former Denver Broncos tight end. Helped win the two Super Bowls in 1998 and 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Byron Chamberlain. You can find him and follow him on Twitter and Instagram at BC_Chamberlain. Byron, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Just, excited because the NFL schedule just came out. So good to see where we're going to be playing and who we're going to be beating. Yeah,
hopefully, like we had said before the show, hopefully we can go 14-2. I think you never know. You never know. Keep the hopes up. And last but certainly not least, he is a Mile High Huddle alumnus. And you can find him on Twitter as well at @V_Broncos. Make sure you go follow him. He is Alex Valdez. Alex, how's your Friday going, man?
Dude, I have it off for the first time in like 6 weeks. It's going great. And I got my hair cut. So, it's going really well.
All right. Well, we do have a lot to tackle today, guys. Of course, yesterday, the 2020 NFL draft schedule, oh my gosh, it is a Friday evening, bear with me. The NFL regular season schedule was released yesterday, but we also have to go over the back end of the 2020 NFL draft and all of its prospects. Of course, we got through the first 6 picks last Tuesday. We went through and recapped picks from round 1 to round, where'd we get to, guys? 4. We got all the way to Albert Okwuegbunam, and now we get to address the backstretch of the Denver Broncos and see what damage they were able to do in a good way for this draft class. So just to recap, I'm going to go down this list real quick, and then we'll dive right into some of these prospects' names, and we'll get some perspective from not only Byron, Alex, myself, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, going down the current prospects we've went over. At pick 15, the Broncos got one of their steals early, snagging the highly praised wide receiver from Alabama, arguably the best of this draft class. You guys know him, defenses fear him, Jerry Jeudy. At pick 46, John Elway wanted to double dip right away, and we got a tandem now. It's called Fast and Faster. So at pick 46, round 2, the Denver Broncos select Penn State Nittany Lion KJ Hamler, who reportedly ran a 3.93 off of a hand clock 40 time during a Michigan game last October. That's how they were able to collect that 40 time. Different story. I'm going off track, back on track. At pick 77, the Broncos address another key position of need this year as they go after the cornerback position early. A lot of people had expected this prospect to drop a little further, kind of scratched their heads at this pick, but nevertheless, they were able to address depth at the cornerback position. So at pick 77, the Broncos select cornerback Michael Ojemudia, and he can come in and fill up that depth chart at the Broncos cornerback needs. So pretty good pick there in terms of depth at the position. At pick 83, Broncos offensive line coach at this point, Mike Munchak, is practically flipping tables because he knows that arguably one of the best, if not the best, offensive lineman in this draft is still available at pick 83. How could it be? At pick number 83, I say it again, LSU's Lloyd Cushenberry goes to the Denver Broncos, come in right away and could be a center for the Broncos for years to come. A lot of people expect him to fill up the need at the center position. Of course, McGovern obviously is. McGovern signs with the Jets in free agency, so he will come in and help the likings of Dalton Reisner and Graham Glasgow, already establishing a pretty aggressive offensive line. So, going down the list, to round out the final the first 5 selections, I should say, they go after McTelvin Agim from Arkansas, a double-digit sack defensive tackle. Was a team captain at the University of Arkansas. Another pick that a lot of people scratch their heads at, considering this was the 22nd best defensive tackle according to Walter Football. But the Denver Broncos address another position in need, so hopefully McTelvin Agim can come in and compete at that defensive line depth. He was a defensive end, played defensive end and defensive tackle while with the Arkansas Razorbacks, but we'll see how that pans out. And then lastly, to round out the last 6 picks that we went over last episode, Byron, this one hits home for, I guess, not only you, but myself. Hey, Missouri, stand up. Albert Okwuegbunam becomes the 118th pick in the 4th round of the 2020 NFL Draft, goes to reunite with his former quarterback, Mr. Drew Lock, hoping to make a big impact in the Broncos' newly established offense under new offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur. So we'll see how that pans out. I mean, right away you can tell offense was the key thing here. And then we get into round 5 where we address yet another position of need. And that brings us to 60 picks later, pick 178 to Mr. Justin Strnad out of Wake Forest. Played outside and inside linebacker. Guys, I'm going to stop talking. I'm running dry here. Alex, I'm going to flip it to you, man. The first one, the inside here. Justin Strnad, interesting guy here. Played outside linebacker. A lot of people had said that he was a little undersized in terms of, all the outside linebackers at the linebacking position. I believe it was 6'3", 238, a safety size. How does he square up against, I guess one of his biggest concerns was squaring up against the bigger backs in the modern league, in today's league. What does he do for the run game, and how does he hold down Todd Davis's spot, considering that this is Todd Davis's contract year? Can he come in and make a day one impact at the linebacking position?
Is he really small for a linebacker, especially a middle linebacker? I mean, 6'3", 240. I mean, that sounds perfect size to me. As far as what he does best, we're talking about a guy maybe you're looking at more as a will backer, someone who can cover tight ends and can, run with running backs out of the backfield. I really like this guy. A couple months ago, his big takeaway was I think he had a torn bicep that really affected his play, but I mean, he still played through it as much as he could. But I mean, this guy is, I think he missed a couple tackles, but the guy is all over the field wherever you need him. Instinctive, great ball skills. Really, the only question I wouldn't say it's it's a bad thing. Just it's getting him into the system that you need him. But his working through that trash, guys that are on the ground and securing the ball carrier. I don't know. I really love the pick. I was high on the guy. I feel like had they picked him, in place of a game and switch those two, it would have made total sense. I really like the pick. I don't think he's making a day one impact. They do like Joe Jones. Of course, they have the Raptor, and of course they have Todd Davis, and you're not really supplanting those two top guys, as well as Josie Jewell. But you have him and Hollins who are just waiting to, secure their spot, especially coming into this kind of system where, there's a lot of check with me's. There's a lot of, handing off in zones as far as taking, tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. I don't think he's making a day one impact, especially with this kind of questionable offseason. But heading down the road, I really like this pick.
And Byron, I did have a question for you on this one. So in terms of the linebacking position, Strnad comes in, he adds a little bit of depth, but at this point it's in the 5th round where these guys take Strnad. Do you think instead of the receiving position, in which we'll get into later, of course they select Tyree Cleveland in the 7th round out of Florida, they triple dip at the receiver position. Do you think that the linebacking position, considering how bad Denver has been these past few years at covering the tight end, it should have been the other position of need in terms of double dipping? Do you think that they should have went after another linebacker during the draft?
I don't think so. What I do believe is this, you're going to give the guys that were already there another year in the system. So another year to be comfortable with the system. And I'd look for, improvement on that part of our defense as far as covering tight ends and backs out of the backfield. with Stranad, I mean, this kid is a very athletic kid. I like him. Alex hit it right on the head. He's a guy that you possibly could stick in at the will linebacker position to give you those, that has those cover skills that can help you cover backs and tight ends. But he's a guy that, his value will be on special teams. He'll be a guy that will give you added depth on special teams while he's getting to learn the system. And I agree with the way the offseason is shaping up, where, we're not going to have the amount of OTAs and things of that sort. I don't see him making an impact, in the starting defensive lineup. But like I said, his value will be there with added special teams depth and then, learning the system.
And it should be noted that a lot of scouts had touted about his intelligence and his ability in the zone scheme. Specifically, he shined in zone scheme. Going back to his statistics during his sophomore year was his most productive year, arguably, while with the Demon Deacons. Recorded 51 solo tackles, 3 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. And as Alex alluded to, he has been plagued by injury. Of course, going back to week 7 of last season, he went out because of, I believe, as you would refer to, it was I want to say it was a pectoral injury, something along the lines, something to that effect. So he's been plagued by a little bit of injury. I think that goes all the way back to 2018. But when he's healthy, he's been a team captain for the Demon Deacons, and he's proven effective. Could he potentially, since he's been able to play at the outside linebacking position, shed some light? Alex, I'll ask you this one first. Do you think because now it's Malik Reed under Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, we could see Stranad get a little bit of reps at the outside linebacking position, maybe be a force as well at that position?
Not at all. It's not his game. He's not a Sam. This is a guy that you want just, standing back there, 5-10 yards off the ball and, kind of diagnosing the play. You don't want this guy lining up and trying to run the hoop drill on a left tackle. I think you're looking at more like, if you're desperate, then you're looking at Hollins. But, I don't see this guy rushing the passer. I mean, if he does, he gives you that added aspect of his game. I'd be surprised, but, I think he's more of an inside linebacker.
Alrighty, and guys, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to be able to fly through this back half of this prospects list here. So we'll put the bookmark there on Stranad. So Stranad goes at pick number 181, and then you move down the list, or excuse me, not 181. That was at pick 178, but then you go down to pick 181, and this has been deemed arguably by some the steal of the draft, considering the fact that this, according to CBS Sports and Bleacher Report, landed an A- grade. Grades are grades, take it with a grain of salt, but it's still impressive. Netane Muti out of Fresno State. Not only did this guy bench press 44 reps, the most of any prospect at the combine, but this guy's been known to be a scrapper, and especially in the pass protection game. Alex, I'm gonna ask you first, and then Byron, I want your perspective on this. If you have any perspective or care to give any perspective on it, is this a steal of the draft? I think we kind of alluded to this. I think we talked about this. Maybe.
Cushenberry was my second best center, and I had him as a top 50 pick, so that will be my steal of the draft. But you're talking about Netane Muti, who, when healthy, we're talking about like a top 75 kind of player. This dude is ruthless. You go and look at, I don't like to highlight scout guys on YouTube. Actually, just pull up the actual games and, watch them play to play. But this dude is just ruthless. It's ridiculous how I don't understand how Byron walks on the field with this kind of guy and doesn't like shaking his boots. Luckily, Byron is different kind of breed than you and I are. But dude, I mean, you see this guy finish guys, pancake, not even looking. I mean, he's a mean kind of player that you want on the team, and he's a guy that they're probably going to redshirt. And honestly, there's no need for him to play if, your inside three guys are healthy and doing their thing. But I mean, when's the last time they had a legit guy who can play, the top three inside positions on the offensive line? So as far as a steal, definitely a steal. As far as someone you need to play this year, he's not. But man, this dude could push a lesser team's inside three guys if the Broncos didn't just sign, Glasgow and Reisner and Cushenberry. So yeah, I love this pick.
Well, I'll say this. I hope that he's the steal of the draft. I honestly do. Heard a lot of good things about him. Don't know much about him. Really didn't see much of his playing at Fresno State. But like he said, I did see the grade A-. People talking about he could be the steal, and that's fine. What I do know is this. We got that draft pick as part of the Case Keenum deal, so I hope he is the Case Keenum trade. So I definitely hope we get something out of that because we didn't get much out of Case.
Oof.
Cold.
Wait, you're telling me you didn't watch Fresno State play all year?
No, and I'm a West Coast guy, and I didn't really get too many Fresno State games this year.
In short, I've heard that this guy is aggressive. I mean, he's a scrapper, very aggressive with his hands. Basically, once he gets his hands on you, it's a direct, he takes control, and for a defender to get past him is pretty much been described as a pipe dream. Very strong off the ball. One of the things that a lot of people were talking about was his athleticism at the second level. I know that Elway had alluded to, especially in his tweet, that he was a great at run blocking. I would not say it was to the point that a lot of people had touted, but I think in terms of pass blocking, I think Muti can come in and play. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I did not. You had homework. Alex had homework for us, just for the people listening at home, had homework for us to go through and kind of work with these names, and I'm going to be completely honest. I did not go through the back half of these names and really study them, so shame on me. But if I am, I'm trying here. I'm doing my best, but nevertheless, I think that this guy. Oh my gosh, I forgot where I was going with my points. Oh my goodness, I literally just went blank. I am so sorry. Yeah. I literally just went blank with what I was going to say. Nevertheless, Muti, good pick. Could be the steal of the draft. I think you're right in the fact, Alex, that Cushenberry was probably the top dog for that spot right now. If you wanted to give that award to anybody in the Broncos draft, yeah, I would probably go with Cushenberry more so because we don't really know about Muti. Of course, he didn't play that much from what I've seen. I think he only played a total of 5 games. So
yeah, there's a reason he fell.
Yeah. So anyway, transitioning. All right, getting into when I say double dip, I meant to say triple dip. Tyree Cleveland. Okay, so the Denver Broncos aren't done at the receiving position apparently, and at the 242nd pick, the second to last pick of their draft in 2020, the Denver Broncos select Florida's Tyree Cleveland. Big, lengthy wide receiver, 6'3", 205. Had a lot of promise coming out of the Houston area, but when he got to Florida, really wasn't as productive or did not live up to the expectation that people had expected from him. I mean, does he compete? Does he come in and compete? I'm going to go to Byron on this one first. Byron, I mean, I really haven't really done much of my research on Tyree Cleveland. As far as considering the receiving depth I have learned about, being Judy and Hamler, and then even some in undrafted that the Broncos were able to sign during undrafted free agency. Do you think Cleveland can maybe come in and compete for a roster spot?
I do. Now there's a kid that I have watched. Him being in the SEC East, he's got good size, about 6'2", about 205 pounds. good athlete. I remember watching him early in his career. Like you said, he came out of the Houston area with a lot of promise. Even had a 98-yard touchdown catch against LSU as a freshman. His big highlight was the game winner he had against Tennessee, last second Hail Mary when Florida beat Tennessee a few years back. But I think he is a guy that there's not going to be a lot of expectation out of him, seeing where he's drafted. But he's a guy that could come in and compete for a spot and just add a lot of depth to that receiver position. I don't think his number will be called on this year. His whole thing was can he come in and contribute on special teams some? Can he learn the offense, learn the system, maybe play behind our top 3 or top 4 receivers and kind of find out where he kind of fits into that scheme. But he really has a good chance, I believe, to earn a roster spot. I believe that Elway's deal is that he's just trying to find the best possible offensive weapons to help his quarterback. And he's going to give Drew every opportunity with every guy that he can out there. So, yeah, I think he does have a legit chance to get a roster spot, maybe not contribute as much this year, but fill in one of those backup roles.
Alex, Elway triple dipping, what do you think?
It's a 7th round. You're at this point, you're just looking at guys that you don't want to have to compete with in, the undrafted pool. But at this point, I don't know, man. I don't even see him beating out Juwan Winfrey, who's already got a year on him. But I mean, competition, brings out the best. So we're talking about, maybe the 5th, 6th guy in the wide receiver room. So, why not, I guess.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, you draft a guy in the 7th round, those are guys that you think you can develop. So, there's actually, practice squad. It could be a potential landing spot for him as a way to just develop.
Oh, not only that, but now you can bring, 2 of them you could add to the active roster every week, I believe.
And they expanded the number of practice squad players.
Right.
So he could be a candidate for that.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to see on Cleveland's end. I think the depth really is kind of set in stone after that Hamler pick. But needless to say, you look at the undrafted free agents, the Manning kid. I keep on thinking of Zamari Manning, and I think that he could come in and compete. I know I'm missing one. There was another kid from a small school, a community college, and I can't remember where, or JUCO college, community. JUCO, I'm trying to think of, oh my gosh. I'm going to have to really do some homework, guys. But anyway, heading into... They've
got Hinton, and they've also got McKnight that they got last year.
I believe
it was Hinton, I believe.
I believe it was the Hinton guy. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate that. A lot of competition at the receiving position, nevertheless. And I think Hamilton, as of right now, even after the first two picks of this draft, you could make the assumption that Hamilton is in job security mode for sure. And yeah, I think it's pretty much the receiving corps right now is kind of up in the air. But bringing in Judy and Hamler, it's crazy because everywhere you look on this depth chart, it seems like you really don't have a bad option. I mean, these are decent targets, and Locke's it's a bunch of toys. It's a plethora of toys. I don't think you could go wrong, really. But nevertheless. All right, going into the final pick, 244. The Broncos select Derek Tuska from North Dakota State University. Now, Tuska was a Associated Press All-American and Missouri Valley Football Conference Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. Recorded 48 tackles, led the team in Oh, yeah, strong. It was during his senior year. Recorded 48 tackles, led the team with 19 tackles for loss and 13.5 sacks, 5 pass breakups in his 15 starts. 2019 sack total ranked 6th in the FCS. And then in 2018, Tuska was an honorable mention all-conference selection, 48 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, starting 7 of the 15 games. What do we think about this guy coming in competing for some defensive end on the defensive end depth chart?
If we look at the 3 guys prior that were all taken as far as defensive players, what's one thing in common that they all have? And that one thing is they were all, in professionals' eyes, overdrafted. Sternad, no one knew who he was, or, Ojemudia, a lot of people had his top 20 cornerback in even a game. But all these things, what I have to remind myself is who's making these picks. It's not John Elway, with the as far as defensive players go, it's Vic Fangio. So I'm just going to, lean on, the mastermind Vic Fangio and say, okay, you know what? He has a plan. Ojemudia, what was he great in? He was great in zone. Sternad, great in zone. And I'm not going to tell, Vic Fangio how to pick out defensive ends. The guy has been working with them for 40 years here. So at this point, what I did like about Derek Tuska was the fact that, you have another pass rusher that you're just going to sit there and develop and take your time with, like you did with Shaq Barrett. And, maybe he comes out on fire like Malik Reed did back in the preseason of last year. And then you've got yourself a nice, reliable pass rusher who can give Vaughn and Chubb a blow. So honestly, I liked it. He dominated what you want to see from, guys coming from lower rank colleges is making sure that, they're dominating their competition. Because if they're not, then, you can't even handle these guys, So, yeah, I love the Derek Tuska pick. I didn't want him to make it to the undrafted ranks. He was actually one of the guys that I was really hoping that they went after. So I really like that one.
Byron, what do you think about him coming in and learning under a guy like Jarrell Casey?
That's going to be for him the best case scenario. I don't know much about the kid, so I don't really have much to say on there. But like I said, I said before with these other guys, these low round draft picks. The best case scenario for them is come in, learn from the veterans, and try to find your way on the roster as a special teams player.
100%. So I'm gonna put, because honestly, we're halfway through this recording. I believe we're up to already 30 minutes. So that basically concludes the full 7 round, the whole kit and caboodle right there. We laid it down. 1 through 4 in the first episode. Just got through 5 through 7. And now we get into the good stuff. This episode I wanted it to be centered around what we're about to talk about. That is the 2020 regular season schedule releasing yesterday. Well, guys, I don't know whether to do, should we do predictions first, or do you just want to break this down in increments? This is kind of a free-for-all. Whatever you guys want to do, we can go down the list and, win, loss, and then we can kind of give our predictions, or we could give a prediction now. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you guys.
One question as far as Byron goes, man, us fans always do this, and I see on like Twitter and all that where it's like, yeah, it's fun for fans to do this, but you guys aren't the ones playing. So how do you feel about when fans do that kind of thing?
Do win, loss?
Yeah.
As a player, we don't put too much stock into that, because we understand, like, you get teams at different times in the year. You get teams when they are coming off a big win, a big upset win, and they might have a lot of momentum on their side. You get teams when they're fighting for playoff position and they got a little hope. They've done a little better than kind of anticipated. So you know every game's going to be tough, especially when you play on the road. Even when you play bad teams I mean, like some of the toughest games that I ever played in were against a bad Cincinnati team in Cincinnati, and they took us to the limit, there. And I remember, John Elway having to pull out one of his patented fourth quarter comebacks just for us to beat a bad Cincinnati Bengals team in Cincinnati. So you understand how that goes as well. How the rivalries feed into it. Some of these times where you may be the better team, but just because you're playing a division rival, you're playing the Raiders or the Chargers or somebody or the Chiefs or whatever, they're going to play against you harder and better than they've ever played all year, even if they're not doing too hot. So don't really like it much when fans do it, but since I'm on the other side now, let's do it.
I got to ask, I mean, what the hell? So in terms of, and Byron, this is a question for you. So this year, the Denver Broncos have 3 primetime games: Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Sunday Night Football, coming against the Titans first, and then you play the Jets on Thursday Night Football in Week 4, and then I believe it is Kansas City in Week 7, I want to say. No, that would be Week 13 on the road in Kansas City. I will ask you this. What was, first and foremost, did you prefer the day games or did you prefer the primetime games? And I'll let you answer that one first. Go right ahead.
As a player, you always prefer the primetime games. You always want this to be the center of attention. You always want it to be the situation where nobody else is playing but you, and all eyes in the league are on you. And not just the eyes in the league, but, you got the attention of the nation when you're playing on like a Monday night game, or you're the Sunday night game and you're the last game of the day. And anybody that's going to be watching football is going to be watching you. So definitely preferred the primetime games. You look forward to those, and you look forward to, performing. And then, there's nothing that could be better as a Bronco if you're like playing somebody like the Raiders or somebody or the Chiefs or somebody who's the top of, the top team in the league. For years, it was like the Patriots or whatever. So,
and I will ask. Oh, go ahead.
No. I'm done.
I was going to say my second part of that question was, oh my goodness, as I just had it, I was saying, of the aforementioned Thursday Night Football, the Monday Night Football, and the Sunday Night Football, I guess my question would be, which did you prefer? What did you prefer the night to play? What was your, I mean, I guess Sunday night is usually one of the most famous, but then, I mean, there's Monday Night Football as well. I believe Thursday night, did you guys play? Did you guys get to play on any of the Thursday night games?
I never played a Thursday night game. I did play once on a Thursday, and it was Thanksgiving. It was a Thanksgiving game.
Oh,
but I would prefer the games. I prefer was Monday night. I grew up, and most people we grew up, on Monday Night Football. The theme song, the legendary announcers, and Monday Night Football is just the thing. And so, anytime you had a Monday night game, you kind of circled that game. You kind of look forward to that game. And so Monday night was always like the night that I preferred to play on if I was going to play one of the primetime games.
Well, I can tell you there's a guy that already circled a Monday night game, and he goes by the name of Jarrell Casey, because right out of the gate, speaking of Monday Night Football, that was a great segue, by the way, Byron, going into week number 1, let's just dive right into it, guys. The meat and potatoes, here it is. Week number 1, the Denver Broncos are at home, and guess who they host? Well, Mr. Jarrell Casey, it's your old team. Former AFC Championship competitors. Of course, they made it to the AFC Championship last season, or this past season, against the Kansas City Chiefs. And now their first game comes as a road test as they go to the Mile High City. Denver Broncos take on the Tennessee Titans. That game is scheduled for September 14th on a Monday. Circle your calendars, 9 p.m. They get the second game of that Monday night doubleheader, the first game being the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. So a second year in a row they're on Monday night, this time at home. Guys, I mean, this is almost as subjective as it gets. Let's keep it as open-minded as possible, all right? What do we think about this game? Byron, you're the Monday night guy. I'm going to let you make the pick first. What do you think? How do you think this game pans out? And could you see us getting a Monday night win in the Mile High City?
Man, this is going to be a tough one. You know, Tennessee, a playoff team, from, like you said, from last year, they were actually in a position to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, if I felt like if they could have just stuck to their game plan. But you know, we're going to get a huge dose of Derrick Henry. It's going to be a real tough task for that defense of ours. The other thing is, you know, you and I talked about this before we got on air. Tennessee's defense is quietly one of the better defenses in the league. There's a lot of defenses out there that are a little more sexier and get a little more publicity. They're just kind of just solid, though, I think. They are going to be missing a couple of guys, losing Casey, you know, and glad he's on our side. But I think this is a winnable game if our defense steps up and plays like they're capable of doing. The thing about it, game plan wise, is you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, and if you can stop him and put the onus on Tannehill to beat you, I think that we got a great chance of winning that game. And it's in Denver, and it's in Mile High State. You know, Mile High. I still call it Mile High. It's in Mile High, so you know the fans are going to be crazy. The best home field advantage in the game. I give the win to Denver.
Alex, prime time. Who you got, man?
Will there be fans in the stadium?
Good question.
Think so. I'm taking it like there's good. It's going to be normal. Things are back to normal. We're attending games. We're attending events. So that's how I kind of.
Well, regardless, you know, I don't think Derrick Henry is going to be trying to run. 15 carries like he did last time for 28 yards. Last time the Broncos pretty much shut him down. What was it this last year when, you know, our quarterback was Joe Flacco and we shut him out 16-0. Ryan Tannehill right now, he's just super efficient. He's not going to come in here and win games for you. He's not going to lose games for you at this point. I think they are, you know, what New England wanted to be down the stretch of Tom Brady's career over in New England. You know, just wait for you to beat yourself. Like you alluded to earlier, Byron, their defense is quietly one of the I don't know, I would even put them elite ones right now. Losing Logan, losing Jarrell Casey definitely hurts, but man, let's be honest here. They got to play the Broncos too. And I don't know if it's just because I'm super close to the Broncos, but I mean, Drew Lock in season 2, loaded up on weapons. We've already beat the bejesus out of them last year. Give me that easy dub.
A primetime dub, indeed. I agree with you guys on the opening nights of the season. I believe I read the stat. It was 39-20-1. The Broncos are in their franchise history, and last year may have been a little bit of a. It wasn't pleasant at all to watch the first game of the season, but I think now you have a defense that has kind of adapted to what Fangio's trying to create, and I think that they still have the formula to beat Derrick Henry, who, mind you, in the backstretch of last season, he led all running backs in most triple-digit games. I believe it was averaging 100 or so, 100 plus. I think his highest was 181, I want to say, and I think that came against Baltimore in the first in the playoffs. I believe it was the first round. Yeah. It would have been the second round. Excuse me. But that was his best performance, and I think that Denver has the formula to maybe not allow that. And so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Denver. But I think it's going to be a closer matchup. I think that this is going to be, I think it's going to be fun to watch both offenses in terms of, I think offensive production. Of course, we're going to get our first look at Hamler and Judy. If we'll see how they do. But yeah, I think the Broncos can get this one. So moving on to week 2. So you travel to the East Coast, not really the East Coast, more so the Midwest, but whatever you want to call it. And the Broncos will face off against Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That game slated for September 20th, kickoff at 12 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, Alex, I'll let you have this one first. Who do you think gets the better of this one at Heinz Field?
I think this is Big Ben's last year, and I'm not even sure Big Ben is who I'm really afraid of. It's more about that TJ Watt coming off the edge and just working Bulls all game. I just don't see a W here. Broncos are still trying to implement that new offense. I figured, if they lean on the run game against Tennessee, that'll get them a dub. But you're still learning that offense. You're still learning what your weapons can do. You're still implementing all that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure they can go toe-to-toe with Big Ben, who's motivated to make something of his last year of his career, I believe. So I believe they lose this one.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to agree with you, and we got to come up with some that we disagree on. But I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to say this, playing at Heinz Field, just a tough place to play. I think it's a huge order, like you said, with Bowles versus TJ Watt. I think that defense, is going to give us our first taste of trouble. And I see, the Broncos taking the L right there. So starting the year off 1-1.
I might be considered not a part of the group after this. I think we can get a win against these guys, and it's solely because I think that the offense can be efficient enough against this defense. I don't really see anything, I believe, besides Joe Hayden, and then I guess you have Minka Fitzpatrick. You bring him over from Miami, so that might be a little bit of a test. Maybe you resort to the run game, try to rely on Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, see how that tandem goes. I think the run game here could really step it up and push us past Pittsburgh. I think the one thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is I still think they have a lot of questions. I don't think they address the tight end position, so you take one thing away from what Denver has to worry about, and at its core, you just have to worry about really Juju Smith-Schuster, and you have to worry about James Conner. And I think that Denver could be able to manhandle that. I think that's all going to be based upon what they're able to do against Tennessee. But I think of the lesser offenses between Tennessee and Pittsburgh, I think this is the easier offense. I think the defense can really step up against these guys. I think this is when you see their best performance and maybe even one of their best performances of the year. I think Denver gets a win here on the road and goes 2-0. But I'm going to be considered subjective maybe, and then, against the crowd here, so I'm getting frowns from both sides. So we go back home to the Mile High City, and this time it gets a little bit more difficult on the schedule as you have Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, no Bill Belichick, but a Bruce Arians, an eager Bruce Arians, along with a Chris Godwin and a Mike Evans, and maybe, as Byron alluded to, a subtly scary defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They come to town. That's slated for September 27th. Kickoff set for 3:25 p.m. Byron, I'm going to let you have the floor first. Tampa Bay or the Broncos, does the Mile High get to Tom Brady again, assuming that we do have fans in attendance?
Yes, and that is the key. We got fans in attendance. I'm going to say this. Okay, everybody on paper has already penciled in Tampa Bay as the Super Bowl representative for the NFC. But I think Tom Brady comes to Denver and he struggles again. We know Denver has been a house of horrors for Tom Brady. It's the one place where he just has not been successful. and I don't care. He's bringing in these new cast of characters. I think, this game has been circled by the players, Von Miller, all those guys. I think also for our quarterback, Drew Lock, I think he's looking at this as a game that he knows the attention is going to be on. It's always going to be on as a quarterback, but even the lights are going to be a little bit brighter, when you're going up against the GOAT, Tom Brady, and his new team with his new weapons. And so it's going to be a game that I think Drew is going to want to come out and prove himself. I love that he's the competitor that he is, and I think everyone's going to really step their game up this game, and it'll be one of those games where the Broncos really come shining through. I remember a couple years ago when Dallas was the Cowboys, when they were like the favorite in the NFC, and they came to Denver, and we literally shut down Ezekiel Elliott, held him to less than like 20 yards or something crazy like that, and really just dominated Cowboys. I look for one of those type of performance, not only from our team, but from our crowd.
Alex, does Brady get it done against the Denver Broncos in that thin air?
Brady, in my opinion, on this one, it was kind of difficult just because Brady, Broncos are the only team he has a losing record against. But it's the weapons that he has that is the only thing that worries me. This is about as complete of a team that you're going to see outside of maybe the Saints and maybe KC a little bit here and there. But those weapons scare me, especially with I keep coming back to this, but this offseason where you're still implementing so many guys into different schemes, and I don't know, man. Those, a Godwin, a Gronkowski that we're all not mentioning. You're also talking about an Evans. Yeah, man, I'm gonna give Tampa Bay this win.
Oh.
We're Brady's kryptonite, man. We're his kryptonite.
Or were we Belichick's kryptonite?
We're both of them's kryptonite.
I'm going to give him an L here. And there you go. There's the first L. You have him at 1-2, Alex, and I believe Byron has him at 2-1. I got him at 2-1. Alex, I agree with you. I think that this secondary, given how thin it is, not really thin, but really, I don't want to say younger. Younger is not even the word to use. Because
they're
you have to
untested.
They're untested. Yeah, that's perfect. Because you have to think AJ Boye, when he did have his success, he was the second best cornerback on that Jacksonville Jaguars depth chart behind Jalen Ramsey. And then you look at a guy like Bryce Callahan, who knows if he's going to be able to step up and be the guy. I think that you really have to have veteran experience, especially when you go up against a guy like Tom Brady, who's going to be under center, and you've got weapons like Chris Godwin, you've got Mike Evans. Still on the table, I believe they still have O.J. Howard. I don't think he was ever released, but they were talking about trading him, and I think right now he's still on the roster. And then you bring in a guy like Rob Gronkowski. Yeah, that is a deadly, deadly, deadly receiving core. And I think... Oh, go ahead.
They were threatening the playoffs with Jameis Winston throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. So what are they going to do with a guy who can actually, be accurate with football and, make his checks, do everything that you want out of a Bruce Arians kind of offense, which is already going to give you problems. So, yeah, man, I'm with you, man. I see it as a W or as an L.
I think just one of the biggest concern, really the thing that Denver could have in their corner is let's say miraculously, Brady can adopt to this new Arian system, which we're going to see that through the first 2 weeks, how he adjusts. And then you take note from that if you're the defense. I mean, even if you're a fan of the Broncos. And going into that week 3, man, I would circle it if I'm Drew Lock. I think you have a good performance if you're Drew Lock, but I think it's just even offensive play here. And I think that Tampa Bay ultimately comes out on top. But it's down to the wire. I think it's within 7 because that's just how Denver loses. So, short week here, and then you go out to the East Coast yet again, Thursday Night Football. And now, mind you, a lot of the times I've said that the New York Jets or even the New York Giants were a, bye week. I've been wrong. So I'm very hesitant to say they're going to win this game because let's say theoretically they beat Tampa. This could be a trap game. Or even if they lose against Tampa, this could still be a trap game. So I don't know how this game pans out. I'm up in the air on this one. Alex, I let Byron go first last time. Byron, I'm going to let you go first the next time. Alex, you get the first one on this one. What do you think?
I'm giving him a dub, but it's so weird to like anticipate and predict Thursday night football games because you don't know who's banged up coming out of that short week. You don't know who's getting, smaller snap counts, who's being monitored, who's, which one of our running backs took the brutes of all the carries that Sunday and now is going to be, the other guy coming in. You don't know who's hurt and who's banged up. So, honestly, if we're just going roster to roster at this point, man, I don't believe in that Jets roster at all. Adam Gase has been atrocious since he left Peyton Manning's side. Man, give me that W and give me 5 sacks in that game because as much as I love Mekhi Becton, he is super raw and he needs time. So I see Bradley Chubb and Von Miller having a day.
Byron, Broncos and the Big Apple, do they get it done in prime time?
All right, so this is where I have and you brought it up earlier, that trap game. I think the Broncos, coming off a huge win over Tampa Bay, short week, long plane ride to the East Coast. This is where we don't show up. And there's always that one game where it seems like, we just can't get it together. We just didn't show up. And I'm looking at this, like you said, as our trap game, and this is the one where we don't come out and play our best, and we are a little disappointed, and we come back 2-2 in our first 4 games. So I'm giving the Broncos a L here.
I do not want to be the guy to give them an L. I really want to give them a win here because I think they're perfectly capable. But it's at the end of the day, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to. Because this is up in the air. This is up in the air. You know what, guys? I'm going to give them a dub here, and it's not with flying colors. I think they play a sloppy game. I think that Drew Lock, shockingly, could potentially throw maybe 2-3 interceptions here. I think that this is going to be a sloppy game, and it comes down to a field goal. It comes down to the foot of Brandon McManus, and I think that's where Denver gets it done. So, we'll have to see on that one. That's an up-in-the-air game. So I think it's a dub, not with flying colors, but we'll see. So after that, hey, Brady, we're going to your former team. The Broncos take on the New England Patriots. This game's slated for noon. I don't know why this game couldn't be an afternoon game. I mean, I know Brady is no longer with the Patriots, but I would think this game would still have some, hype to it. Okay, granted, you have Jared Stidham and or Brian Hoyer competing for the quarterback spot here, but I would still think that you would have a little bit of hype around it to move it to a 2:00 game. I don't know. Byron, what do you think, man? Broncos, Patriots.
After the disappointment and with the Jets, I think the Broncos go there and pick up the win. I don't see Jared Stidham. It looks like he's going to be the guy. I don't see him beating us. I just don't. And look around for they're missing a lot of parts and what James White is the guy that they have still there. Yeah, I really don't see us losing to a team that's quarterbacked by Stidham.
Alex,
we're 3-2 now.
Oh, 3-2. Okay, I think that's we're yeah. I think I'm at the same. Yeah, I'm 3-2. Or well, Alex, go ahead.
If I'm looking at my prior picks, I've got right now. I'm looking basically at which quarterback is better. So far, I've got Drew Lock being better than whatever Ryan Tannehill is going to put on the field. He's not going to be better than Ben Roethlisberger. He's not better than Tom Brady right now. Give me a break on this, on what's going on in New York. But, I mean, is he better than Jarrett Stidham? I mean, that pretty much answers itself. So I'm pretty much convinced that New England is in trying to get into the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, and this game is only going to help them. They get that dub against the Patriots.
Yeah, they get the dub against the Patriots. I think the Patriots, coming off their quote-unquote dynasty years, of course having Brady for oh so long, they kind of have a Golden State Warrior-esque year. I think all the quote-unquote dynasties, this one is going to be the other domino to fall. I think that the Patriots struggle this year when it's all said and done, and tanking for Trevor looks more and more beautiful day by day. So at this point, you're at week 5. Yeah, New England, you're not getting a win here. I think Denver gets it done in Gillette, and I could have never pictured myself saying Denver getting it done in Gillette, like, ever in my life. So please don't prove me wrong. Drew Lock, prove me right and get the win there. I think the Broncos can get it done. So I think I'm at 5-1. Byron, you said you're at 3-2, correct?
Yes.
And then Alex, you said you're at 3-2 as well, I believe.
Sam.
All right. So we move into Tua week. So Tua comes to Mile High, and another SEC matchup. So basically, it's me and Byron versus Alex here in terms of college liking. So the former Crimson Tide here. We can agree because we're Broncos fans. Broncos Dolphins kickoff set for 3:05 p.m. This one's on October 18th, week 6. Who do you think gets it here, Alex?
I still liken Tua to a lot of, what Russell Wilson brought you. When things break down, he can make something out of nothing, but he is not that player yet, and he has a long way to go, especially with that disastrous roster there in Miami. So right now, if I'm holding true to my quarterback v. quarterback, Drew Lock is the better quarterback, at least right now, and, God willing, hopefully moving forward, I'm definitely giving Denver that dub.
Byron?
Yeah, I don't think Tua will be that quarterback at this point. I think he'll be struggling, making a lot of mistakes. I just don't think the Dolphins have the roster to compete with the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos win this one pretty easily. And so I'm going with the dub with Denver, and that'll put us at 4-2.
I think the one struggle here for the Broncos would be, and shockingly, I don't think I would say this one in a million years, but I think Miami Dolphins defense has gotten a little better with this offseason. Of course, you bring over Byron Jones from the Dallas Cowboys. You sign him to a monumental deal, and then you address some key needs in the NFL draft. You're able to get a lot of talent, and of course, you're re-solidifying the offensive line under Brian Flores. How does this defense look? I have no idea. I think Denver can get it done, but I would not be surprised if the Dolphins can come out and compete. So far, I am at &1, and I think everybody else is at &2 at the table as we head into our first AFC West matchup of the calendar year in Week 7. So now we get into the fun stuff, boys. At 3:25 p.m., this should be a primetime game. I wish it could get flexed. October 25th, everybody mark your calendars right now. The Kansas City Chiefs come to town. And boy, howdy, I have never been so ready for redemption in my life. I want to go first on this one. I think we kick Kansas City's ass. And I've said this the past 3 years, and they proved me wrong, so prove me right. I think you have enough speed. You brought in enough speed. You brought in enough defense, all the defensive pieces necessary to get to Patrick Mahomes and make him struggle to get the ball off. And the past times you've applied pressure, I believe, especially in Mile High, he struggled against the pass rush from the Broncos. They've been successful. It's the offense not being able to get over that hump or compete to the same level as the Kansas City Chiefs offense. You look at last year's game, they struggled in the beginning because the defense got fatigued. There's so many times they were out on the field. They had a great first drive whenever they scored off their first possession, but after that, defense just got fatigued. And so I think this is the game that Denver gets the taste in their mouth that, oh yeah, we're back. I think Denver throttles Kansas City. I'll even put a score on this one, guys. All right, 28-14. I say it. I think Denver has a phenomenal game. Sound, offense and defense. Byron, go ahead.
You know what? I agree with a lot of points you just made. A lot of things you said really made sense to me. I believe that, this is the game that the Broncos have been building their roster for. This is why we made those draft picks. This is why we made those moves in the offseason, picking up, a Melvin Gordon, drafting the cornerback out of Iowa, picking up AJ, the corner from the Jaguars. I think this is why we made those moves for this game. I think our defense comes out and plays well. I think Drew Lock comes out and plays well. I think we're on a roll because of the 2 wins previously, Miami and coming off the Patriots win and the Miami win. And, I feel like the team will be rolling at this point. And I feel like the Chiefs will come here and they will prove why they're still the big dogs in the AFC West, and we'll take the L. I just don't think it's that time where we'll get over the hump. I think we will perform well and we will play well, and I think the energy in Mile High is going to be crazy, but the Chiefs get the victory.
Ouch, you built me up for all that, and then you just broke my heart by saying that. Come on, man. Gosh. That was the worst build-up ever.
So what does that make us, 4-3?
I can't live with Chiefs fans another second. Gosh, that hurts. Alex, what do you think?
I think you're in the heartland of it all, and that's what's guiding your judgment right now, man. Just having to deal with all your friends day in and day out and see Chiefs hats all day. Oh, man, I couldn't do it. So, yeah. But until my Broncos show me that they can beat a Patrick Mahomes, led team, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I mean, show me you can do it, and then, we'll talk. We'll talk about if you can dethrone the Kings right now, because right now we're looking at a quarterback who's on a historic rate. We think, Joe Burrow had one hell of a college season. I mean, look what Patrick Mahomes is doing just since he entered the league. And I hate liking a player from the Chiefs, but dude, Patrick Mahomes is so just, he's talented. The dude can run with the football. He can throw it on a frozen rope. And with that, dynamic and scary offense that Andy Reid just seems to just pull out of his Hawaiian shirts every single week, man, I don't see the Broncos winning yet, but I do see a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I do see them meeting them for a third time next season.
Oh, okay. I mean, when you say it like that, but here's the thing. I just think that there has been so many improvements to get to that point, and yes, they got throttled at home, but you have to think of the pieces the changes that they've made. Rick Scangarello, of course, departing, and then you don't have Joe Flacco anymore. Now you have Drew Lock, in which, granted, even going on the road, Lock struggled, but now he gets the hype of the crowd. He's in a new system, a new look, which might be an adjustment, so there could be question marks there. I could agree with you on that. But I just think with all these changes, you finally get to this point, and wouldn't it be just great to, one of your first biggest, I guess it's 2 times the charm, you get to defeat the team that you grew up cheering for, Drew Lock, or I guess you lived around your whole life. You get to beat them on your home field of your current team. You get to defeat them in front of your home crowd. I just feel like it's meant to be. So I think Denver gets the win there. So that's how I feel. But I think I'm still at Am I still at 1? I think I'm still at 1. They're bound for a loss soon. So based off of time here, I think we will probably have to zip through this, or if you guys want, we can put a bookmark in it right now because we're up to bye week at week 8. So we can just zip right through this through the next episode if you'd like, or we can just zip right through it right now. It's up to you.
Oh, let's take the bye week.
Okay. So we'll take the bye week. The Broncos Brawl will take the bye week, and we'll come back to it and be facing off against the Falcons on November the 6th. So, sorry to keep you guys waiting for oh so long. It's been a fun conversation, but like always, all good things come to an end. Make sure that you follow these guys. Byron Chamberlain at BC_Chamberlain on Instagram and Twitter, and then Alex Valdez on Twitter at V_Broncos. And of course, you can find me and follow me on Twitter as well at Keegan Hartman 1. And for that, I am Keegan Hartman, and Alex, you can go right ahead.
Just make sure you guys follow me. Be safe out there. Thanks for joining us.
And Byron, my friend.
Hey, thanks for listening. You guys be safe. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your week. Stay safe.